I can convince any landlord in the world to say yes to Airbnb arbitrage with just 2 words. In this video, I'm going to give you the 4 common objections that landlords will give you, how to overcome them, and the moral of the story, my 2-word trick to overcome any objection at the end, so stick around.
Here are 4 objections that landlords give you and how to overcome them. Objection 1, absolutely not. Do you think I'm crazy? If I'm gonna have anybody in my house, I'm gonna know exactly who it is all the time. This objection is speaking to the fact that when you short-term rent their property, there's going to be a lot of turnover of people and they won't know who's going to be there. This one can be messy because you can solve this for the landlord, but at this point, giving him the full solution probably will make the conversation too complex. And even though you respond with a solution, you'll still lose the sale. I advise for this one to give them a non-answer, a good, positive, confident one, and come back to the solution once you have them more on board. So I'll say something like this. Sure, we have a solution for that. If you'd like to know the identities and even the blood type of everybody staying in this property, we have the measures in which to give you all that information. Aside from that, is there anything else that's on your mind? Get him to give you a different objection that you can knock out the park with a more confident, simple answer that makes him feel more empowered, and then go to close the sale later. Objection number 2, no, that's a terrible idea. I do long-term rentals because I don't want parties or people burning my house down. This is an asset. Okay, how you overcome this objection? You know, Mr. Landlord, you're right. For the longest time, this industry was not safe. We didn't have a means to prevent parties or prevent bad guest behavior. People would smoke in homes, we couldn't catch them. Our company personally, and I can't speak for other short-term rental operators, but we use technologies, ones such as Minute, Wind, there's additional insurances like Proper or Superhog. I advise that you have this stuff in your phone. I don't recommend bringing a pamphlet to pitch a landlord, but have this ready in your phone so you can show them by phone. That's good enough. So we have these different devices, and what they do is they track the number of guests in the home, how loud they're being, if the place is too hot, cold, or humid, if someone's smoking. We can do background checks or additional screening to make sure that they're safe. We ultimately get to choose who stays in this property. And if we don't run a good business and control risks on our end, we'll lose our relationship with you. In this industry, we really only start making real money until our 3rd year of working with a property. There are launch costs, buying furniture, property optimizations, different interior design styles that we might try, and we don't really hit full stride until the 3rd year. And we can't do that by losing your trust and losing your business. Would you like to hear more about any of these individual products like Minute, Wind, Proper Insurance? Which one of those do you think would most address your concern? This one agreed with the landlord and then reframed the nature of his objection, stating that he's right. There are risks, but we did it under a timeline. You're right, there were risks. You see, this slight reframe agrees with him, but opens the door to a solution. And then what I did at the end was the version of a choice close. I gave him the option to choose which device or which solution appears to be most in line with what his problem is. In a way, it's asking him to reaffirm what his objection is and which solution is most closely related to his objection, but it also forces him to pin down that he believes that one of these could solve his objection. Objection 3, I don't need to give my property to a short-term rental operator. There are plenty of potential tenants out there. I'm just going to continue to do things the old-fashioned way. This seems pretty vague, but his statement is based on the assumption that demand will always be high in the long-term rental space. So what we can do is we can attack that. You can do this with risk management or opportunity cost. And so I would say something like this. You're right, Mr. Landlord. It could be bad timing for me as a short-term rental operator to come to you and offer to rent your place today. But what I can tell you with either my conversations or my business dealings with other landlords is that they have a high turnover cost. Your property's unleased right now, is that correct? And what's even better than finding a new tenant fast is never losing the previous tenant in the first place. Would you agree? What I can offer you is the last rent check you'll ever receive. If we do well with your property, which we fully intend to, we will never move out. You will no longer have tenant turnover. This creates huge opportunity for you. You can just keep buying new properties and you can rent the next ones to us, and we'll just hold all of these properties forever, paying rent because we're profitable and you're profitable. You no longer have to deal with 4 rent signs, tenant interviews, real estate agents, none of it. You can just rent to us and we will take care of this property and pay your rent check for life. How does that sound as a great trial close for this? You're just hitting the nail on the head. And the landlord should be pretty excited about this brand new information. Most landlords have never thought about the fact that a short-term rental operator could be the last person they ever do business with. You're now also hanging the carrot of more deal flow in front of them. I love this with my students. We talk about versions of this all the time inside of my scripts inside of Cracking Superhost. Objection number 4, short-term rentals are terrible for properties. The amount of wear and tear will destroy my home and I don't want any of that. Let's use Feel, Felt, Found in case you've never heard of this one before. I did mention it in a previous video on 6 sales techniques that I use to pitch landlords, but let's cover it again, keep it fresh. I absolutely understand where you're coming from. As an Airbnb host, I cannot tell you how many walls that I've had to repaint because of like luggage scuffs on the wall, for example. And other landlords that I've talked to, they felt the same way. I think it's common knowledge to believe that short-term rentals do a lot of damage to property. But even within just a few months of doing short-term rentals, these other landlords who felt the same way, what they've realized is people rarely use the kitchen, for example. People who come into town, they just don't cook often, which means they're not using the fridge as much. People tend to be lighter on properties that they're not living in. It takes weeks or months for people to start settling into homes, to start living into them and letting their bad habits seep in. And because people tend to not stay that long, even if they were bad tenants per se, they'd only be bad tenants for a couple weeks, maybe max. And what happens is we come in after that person leaves and we have to set this property up again in like new for sale condition. We keep this property in perfect condition at all times because if we don't, we can't win the business. So we are touch-up painting walls, and we are changing air filters, and we are cleaning this thing from top to bottom, and we are doing some of our own minor maintenance to make sure that this place is perfect so there's not even a loose handle or loose faucet in the place for years to come. And with that said, can I ask, how long have you been a landlord for? See, now I'm starting to redirect because I'm going to give him another evil here that he may not have considered. This script to overcome the objection could have been enough. We could have used a how does that sound close, but let me go a little bit farther with, we could have closed right there with the trial close, like how does that sound? But let's go even farther. I'm gonna ask him about his previous history. So with that said, Mr. Landlord, can I ask, how long have you been a landlord? Or you might have already known this because you watched this previous video that I talked about with building rapport with landlords. And you could say, so you said you've been a landlord for 8 years, right? Have you ever had a tenant leave the place in terrible condition? Maybe lived there for 3 years, reported no repairs, there's nacho cheese all over the place, and you had to spend thousands of dollars and multiple weeks getting the place ready for a re-rent? What I can tell you is if we are managing this property in real time, in like new condition the whole time, that will never happen. Our business would go under so fast if we let a property stay in a condition of disrepair. So even though there's this urban legend about short-term rentals being harder on properties, managing short-term rentals effectively keeps properties in perfect condition because that's what's good for business. So if I could promise you that we could always have this property in a for sale, ready for show condition, that way if you ever wanted to sell the home, you never had to worry about making the place clean or ready, it's just always perfect. If I could guarantee you that condition, would that give you the confidence to consider my proposal to allow me to do short-term rentals in your property? And that was an if I could, would you close. It's a version of a trial close, but we're leaning on this concept of reciprocity in a transactional way, but I'm gonna do something special. Would that allow you to meet me in the middle? This is just 4 of many objections that landlords have, but with the proper sales training, you can use techniques like a porcupine close, quick reversal, trial close, multiple choice close, Benjamin Franklin close, feel, felt, found. You can use neuro-linguistic programming techniques to get landlords to tell you yes to do rental arbitrage. This is the part where I tell you I'm the best in the world at teaching people how to do short-term rentals and Airbnb arbitrage, but by now you might have realized that my 15 years of sales coaching experience has made me particularly effective at negotiating leases with landlords. If you want me to coach you how to sell, how to negotiate, how to win free deals, and I didn't mention it in this video, but how to get those same landlords to go from a no to giving you a yes and 8 weeks of rent for free, so you can spend more money on your furniture, I have a new program called the Closer's Mentorship. Instead of signing up for a program where you learn everything Airbnb on the front end and pay $10,000 for that program, this program allows you to learn how to sell landlords, pick up your first property, get free rent so it pays for itself, and that way once you have your first property, you can learn things like pricing strategy and how to communicate with guests and where to buy your sheets and your couch from.
Every objection can be overcome with a 5-step roadmap, and those steps are to empathize, to reframe, to solve, to re-enthuse, and to close. And the 2-word system I want you to memorize for every objection moving forward will help you land on step 1 every time, and those 2 words are, I understand. It is important in step 1 that you say more than just I understand. You want to continue to express how you actually comprehend and understand their objection. And to make step 2 work, you need to reframe the language in a way that is open-ended to a solution instead of some final objection like it's the end of the world or it's a deal breaker. When we look at examples like background checks, the landlord knowing who's in the home, they had no clue that there was a possible way to do this efficiently. And all we have to do is follow that 5-step system, introduce the fact that there are actual solutions to background checks or guest information communication, and move forward with the deal like it's never been a problem. Your confidence in these 5 steps are going to be crucial for every landlord objection. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. I also have a whole playlist on pitching landlords how to do Airbnb arbitrage. Watch the whole playlist next. Thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, I'll see you on the other side.